for the next few minutes is most of you know that HR runs through just about everything in the house. So I thought what it'd be useful to do is just concentrate on the main areas that you're going to be held accountable personally for, or you are held accountable personally for. So to give you an idea of what you need to watch out for and what you need to monitor. I think there are three main areas that I'll quickly go through. Performance management, staff development, and staff welfare. So starting with the appraisal system or the performance management side of things, it's pretty straightforward. Those of you who've been in the UN before, or for a while, or even just a few months, will understand the UN system now. It is quite cumbersome, but equally I think that's partly important because my personal view, obviously, as you can imagine, is that nothing is more important than our staff, our quality and our development. So it's absolutely critical we get it right. In the appraisal system, there are the three stages, and it's quite timely now because, of course, the end of the 13-14 appraisal period is upon us, and the goal setting or the work plans for the 14-15 is equally upon us as well. So the three stages: work plan, mid-term review, and year-end review. Key dates, these are very important, particularly if you have supervisory responsibilities. The year-end review for 13-14, the deadline for completion is the end of this month. And the work plan for next year, or for this year now, is 31st of May. Now that is particularly important because Arantxa has set a series of high-level goals that have been incorporated into each director's work plan. And I'll come on to those now. I think it's worthwhile just showing you them. What you will probably find will happen, or I hope you will find will happen, is your director will flow down these goals to your boss or to you, so everybody is held accountable for certain elements of it. I'll quickly go through, I'm sorry about the size of the text on this, but I'll quickly go through them. There is an HR one which I want to focus on, but it'll give you an advantage, I think, just to have a look and see exactly what Arantxa has decided. So the first goal there is cross-functional and interdivisional teamwork and collaboration, and directors are held accountable for demonstrating 3 practical examples of initiatives that have increased cross-functional teamwork and collaboration. And then they have to also show how they produce tangible, measurable efficiencies or have improved delivery. Second one, effectively manage the staff under my supervision and contribute proactively to their professional development. Now this obviously is the key one as far as I'm concerned in terms of HR. And you will see further down here there are 3 elements to it. The first element is that ensure all staff have the opportunity of personal and professional development and are available to attend at least 5 days personal professional training activities per appraisal cycle. Now I'll come on to that a little bit more in a minute, but the directors, and therefore you, will be held accountable for that. Second one, the various stages, please make sure you complete the various stages of the ITC appraisal process in a timely, objective and thorough manner. Now the important bit there is this here, 100%. So when I talked before about the work plans being completed by the 31st of May, Arantxa has mandated that all directors are personally responsible for all the work plans in their division being completed by the 31st of May, no argument. And then finally, you'll see there, ensure, or maybe you'll see, your eyes are good, ensure I and my staff complete all mandatory training. Now mandatory training, as we all know, is a right pain in the bum, but it has to be done. It's called mandatory training for a reason. It's not ITC that's made it mandatory, it's throughout the UN system. And I'll come on again to that in a little bit. So that, as far as I'm concerned, is where Arantxa holds the directors responsible in terms of HR issues, and where the directors will hold chiefs and so on, all down till we're all included. The 5 days professional development, completing the appraisal process on time, and ensuring everybody completes mandatory training. The other goals that she set for the directors, just for your information: the implementation of all accepted audit recommendations, manage the division portfolio to meet expected TRTA output, outcome and expenditure targets, and proactive management of financial resources. They're the 5 standard goals that she set for her directors. They total 80%, and those of you who are familiar with the appraisal process will understand that. Basically, it means there's another 20% that's free that a rancher can say to each individual director, okay, Eva, I want you to concentrate on making sure HR develops the continuing appointments process, or whatever it might be. So there's 80% is set, there's 20% that's flexible. And within that 80%, of course, they're all quite general goals themselves, but they will be held accountable. You will be held accountable. The next thing is staff development. I talked about, primarily important here is the 5 days we talked about just before. It's obviously, and I'm teaching you to suck eggs here, I'm sure, but maintaining and developing the professional managerial competence of staff is an important priority. Of course it is. It goes without saying. But as I say, the most important thing for you to note is this 5 days thing. Now, good and bad. The good news is that we're shortly going to be introducing a new electronic leave system. So those yellow cards that we've had for donkey's years will be going. Thank goodness. It'll all be done electronically. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is on that, whenever anybody undertakes any professional development activities, there will be a box. So once again, you will be held accountable for you and your team's completion of the 5 days. It's not mandatory in that you have to do it, but it's a strong recommendation. And really, even when you've done the mandatory training, which I'll come on to very shortly, it is quite time consuming. If you had to sit down and do all the mandatory training one after another, it would take about 2.5 days. Now, a lot of those aren't annual. A lot of those are just do, and that's it, you've done it, you don't have to do it again. But for an ab initio, someone fresh in, it will take 2.5 days. So really, the 5 days isn't that onerous. Here we are, the mandatory training. You'll know most of these, I'm sure. But the only point I would make again is that you are going to be held accountable. We will provide you with all the tools, the access to these courses. You just have to make sure you and your staff do them. The other aspect that I think is important to stress that you have responsibilities for, staff welfare. Now, of course, within you and your teams, you will have your own issues. Every team has its issues. We are here to help you if we can in HR. Not just HR here, but throughout the whole system. And there are various different media that we're using to try and address and improve staff welfare. The Ombudsman, Louis Germain, he'll be coming down hopefully in 20 minutes or so to have a talk through his activities. Those of you who've been here more than a few months will know that going back a year or so ago, it wasn't the most relaxed environment. There was a lot of conflict between staff and management. Louis was very helpful in helping us get over certain issues and to move forward from them. He's a very good man, he's totally impartial, and he will be able to help you or your staff if they need any private, confidential advice. Equally, there's a UN staff counsellor. I think there is only one in Geneva, Larissa, is that right?
UN, yes,
yeah.
UN for the secretary.
She is very busy. I think she needs a counsellor of her own, to be honest. She never stops, but again, she's there to help anybody who has any particular issues that may be not worthy of going to the Ombudsman about, but she's there to help and provide advice and guidance and an arm around the shoulder. Flexible working hours. We're very keen to ensure that we all can meet our domestic arrangements and domestic issues as much as possible. It's all about work-life balance. There is a whole raft of flexible working initiatives, whether it's working from home, staggered working, working 10 days in 9, so you have the 10th day off as essentially leave, because you bank the hours already. There's lots of different things that we can do. It's quite explicit in the Flexible Working Times Initiative what we can do. Equally, if you have any issues, any problems, come and see me, Larissa, any of my team, and we'll try and look at what options you have and how you can move forward on that. Conflict resolution. Again, internal and external. Today, for example, I've been made aware, no, not today, let's say in the past 8 working hours, I've been made aware of 3 particular sources of conflict that might require HR's help or somebody's help to resolve. That's pretty standard, believe it or not. Most of them are fairly straightforward. You can bang a few heads together, have a quiet chat, and everything gets sorted out. Sometimes it can't. So we're here to help if we can. And also, Neil Fishman, who is my legal officer, has just been on a conflict resolution and mediation course. So he would be ideally placed if you feel there is an issue developing between you and one of your staff, or you and your supervisor, or anybody else in-house. He will be able to help you informally, quietly, confidentially resolve those issues if you want. So we do have a whole suite of options available to us. And of course there's the Staff Council, who will be more than happy, as they always have been, to work with HR to make sure everything goes nice and smoothly. And we've got Tom Humphreys, who is actually coincidentally in the HR team from the Staff Council, who, when I've finished blathering on, he'll talk to you about how great HR is and how really the Staff Council doesn't have a role because we do everything for them. It's great. Hopefully, Tom, eh? Before I go to any related questions, as a special free gift, we're actually sticking the day out. We've just developed, hot off the presses, an ITC guide to staff benefits and entitlements. Now, it's pretty comprehensive, we think, and it gives you an idea of anything and everything you're entitled to. Yeah, exactly. Now in there it talks about your entitlements on joining, entitlements going throughout the whole process. It was based on a UN version, however we've had to change it quite considerably because there are things like mobility requirements which the UN Secretariat has, which we do not have. Now there's good and bad tied in with that. I think most people in the ITC would say it's good, because it means you're not subject to geographic mobility. However, it can be bad because obviously ITC is a small, technically based operation, and therefore often the chances for advancement up the grades can be quite limited. So one of the things to do with staff welfare is trying to ensure that your staff, wherever possible, are fulfilled. And one of the ways to do that, perhaps if they're getting stale, if they've been in one job for a while, is through a lateral move. And again, those of you who are chiefs of sections and directors in here will know that Arancha, Ashish, myself, the relevant director and relevant chief, have been going through a whole series of talent review meetings to look at individuals, see where their strengths and weaknesses are, how we can develop them, how we can help them develop, how we can get the most out of them, and how they can have a fully rewarding career. So anything to do with that, for you or your staff, lateral moves, speak to your boss, speak to me in confidence. I'm quite happy to have a chat in confidence with anybody, and we can look at how we can move things forward. But I think overall you'll find that document quite useful. We haven't made that many copies, however it will be available if anybody else wants a copy. It will be available on the HR pages of the intranet by the end of this week. So if anybody asks, please refer them to that. Okay, questions? Fantastic.
I have a question.
Oh no, Alice! As long as it's an easy one. I don't do hard questions. Larissa does the hard ones.
How can an ITC staff apply to a UN job?
They're perceived. That's the issue about internal, external, and mobility. Because we're not subject to geographical mobility, we are seen as outside. We're seen as external to the UN system. So if you want to apply to a job in New York or to UNOG, you will be seen as an external candidate. That's the disadvantage. The advantage is that if anybody wants to apply to a job that you're interested in ITC, they similarly will be seen as external. So the ideal for me anyway as an HR man is if we can get to the balance point of 50% people coming in on 50% of new appointments are new people coming in, and 50% are people inside developing themselves, then I think that's great. We've got some work to do on that, and it's one of the metrics that you will see in the HR people strategy, which we'll be publishing in the next few days, hopefully, to try and get the balance right. Because I think at the moment, certainly the staff council would agree, and I agree, is that it's gone a little bit too far. There's too many externals coming in at the cost of internal candidates not perhaps getting the job they want.
What's the disadvantage? Sorry, maybe I missed it. What's the disadvantage? What advantage do you have if you're an internal person in the UN applying for a job?
It's a good question to which I don't know the answer. The new system.
The UN Secretariat can have internal vacancies only.
No. Finished. No. Member states want all vacancies to be on the web. There is no more internal and no external. They want all vacancies to be posted.
But can't they review internal candidates first?
I think they're eliminating that. I don't know.
I
There
think
used to be a 15, 30 and 60 days.
Yeah.
But I think they're in the process
I
of
think-
eliminating, which means I don't really know what. I think everybody will be stressed. So what in practical purpose is the difference? I don't really know.
I think they've got rid of the 15, 30, 60, whatever it was. But I think there is still a process whereby internal candidates can get reviewed first.
If possible.
You
But
mean
the-
if they don't fill the post with the internal candidate, then it gets opened up to external?
Not
No, it's
all.
all done.
No, it's all
So
done.
you've got your 500 applicants,
Yeah.
of which say 50 are internals. No, you're actually not joking. It's true. We get that many.
Yeah.
And the 50 internals could then be reviewed as a card before going external if there's no one found suitable. But yeah, to answer your question, we're better out of it.
I mean, it seems like it's not a big.
It's
big
very
issue.
hard to figure out the difference. I agree with you these days.
There are significant disadvantages through us being involved, not least mobility. You have to, Alice, you might know, you might be able to correct me, Larissa, but I think if you want to get to the P5 grade in the UN system, you have to have done at least 2 or 3 tours in two tours in different geographical locations. So there are significant, and also in terms of we're not held against any geographical quotas or distribution figures because we're too small. If we were part of the UN system, we would have to be part of the gender and geographical distribution calculation. So it would impact quite severely on the ability to recruit an individual if he's from what they would perceive as an overrepresented country in New York.
Our projects are growing, we are delivering more. Do you think at some point it is possible that we spend a year in the field implementing the projects in Fiji, for instance, or in Dakar, or in other places, instead of, well, not instead of, but as a new approach to delivery? Is that possible with our ITC contracts?
With our structure, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And is that something you're working on?
I'm not personally, but I know perhaps Eva or Rob might be able to. I know SMC are considering how we can put a better presence on the ground in particularly sub-Saharan Africa, for example. We've got the Mexico office, which has had some successes and perhaps some weaknesses as well. So that has been almost like a trailblazer. I know we're looking at getting potentially offices in India and so on. So yes, I think looking ahead, and now Arantxa has got this more outward focusing look, if that's the right way to put it. I think we'll see that happening more and more. Yeah.
Carl, I don't think you need to open an office to field somebody in the field as well.
Well, it depends. I mean,
You don't need to have an ITC office in the field to have an ITC staff member working to build the capacity of national institutions.
Yeah, my only issue there is, also to do with, Sophie will be able to answer this better, but to do with security.
Well, the person can be, anyway, UNDP resident coordinator's office.
But then we would have an ITC office like we do in Mexico, for example, which is an ITC office within UNDP.
Why not a lighter version? You know, something
exactly.
that is where I've seen UNIDO stuff in UNDP buildings, and it was just one room,
Yeah, one room, exactly.
with a sign on the door, and that's it basically. So maybe we could
One
do
staff
some-
can be an office, you know.
Exactly, but it doesn't have to be a formal
Totally.
office.
Yeah.
It can be for a project for 2 years, 3 years, maybe.
House
From
in
From
another
an HR
organization.
perspective,
Yeah.
it's not an issue, it's a strategic decision.
So what I understand from the discussions I've heard at SMC, this is something that we're definitely already doing with projects and will continue. I don't see that as being high on the priority in terms of the regular budget posts like the Mexico thing. There is going to be an evaluation of the success or lack of the Mexico office, and that will probably inform going forward. Now, when we have an ITC staff member in some country, they have to be covered by the privileges and immunities of somebody. So either they're under UNIDO, or they're under ECLAC, or they're under UNDP.
Totally, yeah.
But somebody who has an agreement with that country has to welcome the ITC staff member under that umbrella, so that you're recognized as an international public servant with privileges and immunities that gives you, and the security and everything else. So yes, it's simple. It's a ITC door, says ITC, and you're sitting in the International Maritime Organization, yes, but you need a legal agreement that the International Maritime Organization welcomes you under their legislative agreement with the host country. So yes, it's simple, and yes, we can do it, and yes, we do it, and yes, we will continue to do it, and we want to do it. That will be our presence in the country, but you know, there are certain steps that have to be done.
First thing, this is brilliant, and really, really helpful. And so is this session today. You know, if I'd had this session at the beginning, my entry in here would have been a whole lot better. Would have been really helpful. So I think they're fantastic. And a very, very small question on the flexible working stuff. Who decides? Is that, do we go to HR? Is it line manager? Who's in charge?
It's signed off by the relevant director, but essentially in practice, if the individual and the supervisor stroke chief agrees it, there shouldn't be a problem for the director.
Is there a maximum number of days in a week one can work from home?
No.
No, there isn't. I thought it was a maximum of
Oh, is it two?
I think it's two.
Is it, sorry?
2.
2 days.
You almost saw Mass Exodus.
Anything else? Okay, I'll pass over now. So we've got Louis Germain coming in, hopefully 10 minutes. So I'll pass over to Tom, who will explain a little bit about the role and the mandate and the activities of Staff Council.
Thank you, Paul.